All right, Brian, we're taking a look at the markets here. Of course, we had the big report come out yesterday, and I think that kind of took the wind out of everybody's sails. Markets in the grain side still in negative territory here as we go through the day.
Yeah, it's tough to find really any bullish inputs or enthusiasm this morning. Everybody was kind of caught leaning the wrong direction yesterday. There was a Bloomberg survey prior to the report's release, and 28 firms responded. 27 of the 28 firms had lower yield expectations yesterday for corn, and only one had unchanged. Nobody had a larger yield increase, and that's the very definition of being caught off guard. That's what the market gave us. USDA said yields actually increased compared to the prior month. That sent prices tumbling. Funds were massive sellers yesterday, and I was kind of surprised we didn't even see a worse sell-off yesterday where we touched limit down or something. But we've come back a little bit off of our lows. I think it's going to be a struggle here going forward. The feedlot owners know that there's big supplies out there. They don't have to book their needs. They can just kind of buy hand to mouth. The speculator probably doesn't want to really get involved on the long side of corn or soybeans until a weather issue rears its head. And so then you're left with very little buying interest out of this market. Now, you may see a little bit of a bounce after Wednesday, kind of some of the fund selling subsides, but rallies I think are going to be sold in the corn market, soybean market until we get into a weather event that could change the supply. We just have too much supply, not only in the U.S., but the USDA also told us yesterday on a worldwide basis, particularly in Brazil and Argentina, we have too much corn and soybean supply.
So what do you think is going to happen here? How do you think this is going to affect basis, and what do you think we're going to see here, Brian?
Well, if you have a big supply, and basis is a local condition, basis in North Dakota may be different basis than what it is in Nebraska or Iowa, and it will react differently. If you're in an area that produced really good yields, I know North Dakota was one of the yields USDA cited yesterday as having tremendous type yields, an increase from what they previously had thought. Iowa was the opposite. They showed a decrease from previously what they had thought. Those types of local discrepancies are probably going to become prevalent this year as far as trying to pry grain loose from the farmer's hands. I do think the bin doors have been slammed shut pretty hard for the near term, and until we get into the spring, summer weather event, there's not going to be much in the way of selling. So plenty of crop to go around, but getting it into the pipelines, you may see areas that see basis improve enough to try and trigger some cash sales, and there may be some small amount of sales, but for larger sales, we're going to have to probably wait until spring, summer, see if there is a rally. That's the mentality from the farmers. We've come this far, we're going to hold out and see if we can get better prices. Maybe a weather rally in the spring or summer is going to give that opportunity to us.
Looking over at the livestock market here, we're seeing cattle continuing to climb here. We get positive numbers there.
Yeah, we haven't seen the feeder cattle index yet today, but it's been climbing higher. Packers are cutting their kills this week in an effort to prop up their boxes. So we saw boxes higher last night. That's given us a firm start to the morning. Show list numbers are down, so there's ideas that we're going to see stronger cash trade this week. We just don't see a lot of people rushing in and trying to sell this cattle market and stepping in front of what potentially is a bull market for 2026. We know supplies will be very tight into the second quarter. It seems like we're probably going to be placing a lot more cattle after this month's report. Maybe we get into February and start talking about January placements. Then we could see a lot more placements. But until then, we're going to have very tight numbers. And, of course, the first quarter, second quarter of this year, very tight supplies. That should be bullish for prices, especially as we get into the spring and demand starts to improve.